Well, we've been talking about the budget all morning. Now let's get a new spin on the story. The Alternative Information Development Centre says government needs a radical change in policy. Let's talk to Dick Forslund now, who represents the centre. Very good morning to you. Thank you so much for your time. Now, you have some very controversial views on taxing the rich more and what you're calling the narrow tax base fallacy. Before we go there, tell us a little bit about this particular incident. What you think, give us a brief overview of the state of our economy and what Pravin Gordhan really has to work with at present.
Well, most glaring when it comes to budget issues is of course the deep inequalities between people in South Africa. So I think it's urgent to address those issues. The state must go in and redistribute more income in the economy, because primary distribution of income and at factories and companies are already too unequal distributed, and so the income must be redistributed. Otherwise, I don't think that a continuation along this road of growing inequality is not compatible with political democracy. So that's most acute. Another issue is, of course, the whole infrastructure program. I think it's time to rethink here about nuclear power, coal power, fracking, and so on. We would like to see change to renewable energy, to climate jobs, and going for social investments in health, education, roads, water, sanitation. I think that also that would be very popular for a majority of South Africans.
Now, many economists believe that Pravin Gordhan doesn't really have much to work with. We have economic growth slowing, tax base seems to be shrinking, pressure is mounting on the expenditure side as well. So if you were the minister, A, how would you deal with those problems? And B, how would you divide the spoils accordingly?
Yeah, it's true that the growth is not at all as it has been projected in the National Development Plan and so on. The growth is 2-3%. There's an international crisis for capitalism, and that is what we have to count on. So in that situation, I think that the Treasury should, or a government of the workers of the poor, should consider to increase the tax pressure on the rich. For example, it has been speculations before this budget that the 42% and 45% tax rate should be reinstalled. They were taken away in the 12-13 years ago. And the whole discussion about the narrow tax base, in my view, is very strange, because nobody has suffered from any narrow tax base. There's been a shift in income taxation the last 12-13 years, and the rich and the high income earners and the super rich are taxed less and less. The taxation is becoming lighter and lighter, so nobody would suffer if the tax regime was reinstalled, at least since it was back to 2000. If you compare with 1994 and compare the tax pressure on a person who, say, earn 850,000 rands today, or in 2011, if the tax regime would have stayed politically stable during since 1994, such a person would pay 76,000 rands more in taxation. And in addition, it's extremely important for the finance minister and for the SARS to bring in all the tax dodging super rich in South Africa. If you look at the tax statistics, you will see that only 2,100 persons are registered for having an income above 5 million rand. But 2 years ago, SARS contacted one single financial institution and found 30,000 people who were able to save more than 1 million rand every year. So you can assume that they have an income of 8, 9, 10 million. So the tax dodging in South Africa is immense. And thirdly and finally, the interesting point about this and how it really undermined the argument about this so-called narrow tax base is that even if you would bring in 10, 20,000 tax dodging super rich into the system, it wouldn't increase the tax base so much, but the budget would be completely different. The finance minister would have 20, 30 billion rands more to play with, just by taxing, just by being able to bring in 20, 30, 40,000 tax dodging rich people into the system. So I think that is really, really important. Also to be able to to make a reform of the national health system, which we are also waiting in this budget speech that Pravin Gordhan should say something about, the national health insurance.
We are. Thank you so much. We're going to have to leave it there. That was economist Dick Forslund. We apologize. The line there, much less than desirable. We did get the gist of what he was trying to say, though. Thank you so much for your time.